let's go through these and see if we can identify this. Let me get a drawing tool out really quickly, and I'm just gonna draw some lines. If it'll let me while I'm recording, maybe not. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I am going to draw some lines from the definition to the term that corresponds with it. So let's just start at the beginning with illusion, since we already looked at a multiple choice question that had illusion in it. You guys should know that an illusion is a reference. So our second definition here, a brief reference to a famous person or event, that is an illusion. So number one would go in that second box right there. All right, let's take a look at number two, hyperbole. We've talked about hyperbole in the rhetoric unit. We've talked about hyperbole in the poetry unit, and a couple of different times as well. So a hyperbole, if you guys remember, is an exaggeration. So which one of these definitions fits that? Right down here, an obvious intended exaggeration. So that's going to be, oopsie, didn't mean to do that. Let me select my line again. Okay, so an obvious intended exaggeration is a hyperbole. It's going to get a little messy on the screen here. Okay. Next up, we have rhetorical question. So this one is kind of an obvious definition because it's the only definition that has the word question in it. So right down here, our definition that says a question posed for effect, not requiring an answer, that is a rhetorical question. So when you ask something, you don't expect to get an answer, that's an example of rhetorical question. All right, let's move on to direct address. So if you are directly addressing someone, you're speaking right to them. So a direct address is something that an author uses to speak directly to their intended audience. So let's take a look here. Which one of these definitions looks like this one down here? An author explicitly addressing. So they're explicitly addressing or directly addressing his or her audience in the text. So this one's going to go to number 4, direct address. Hopefully you guys are following along and I'm not going too fast for you. If you need a second to think about these, you can always pause the recording. All right, next up we have verbal irony. Let's take a look. What definition here goes with verbal irony? Well, what about a statement that expresses the opposite of the literal meaning of words, often used for humorous or sarcastic effect? Yes, that is the definition of verbal irony. We talked about that one in class. So you should have number 5 in that first box there for verbal irony, statement that expresses the opposite of the literal meaning. All right, that gets us down to ethos, pathos, and logos, which we know are our rhetorical appeals. And if you notice, each of the 3 options that are left available are appeals. They all start with appeal. So we just have to sort out what 3 go where. So let's start with ethos. So ethos, we know, is an appeal to what? If you guys remember from class, I told you to remember that ETH, ethos, goes with ethics. Ethos is an appeal to ethics or credibility. Next up, we have pathos. So is pathos an appeal to logic and reason or an appeal to emotions? Those are the options that we have left. So if you said that pathos is an appeal to emotions, you are correct. So that path, P-A-T-H, and pathos kind of sounds like sympathy. Sympathy also has a P-A-T-H in it, and feeling sympathetic towards someone means that you you sympathize with their emotions. So that's how you can remember pathos goes with emotions. So it's an emotional appeal. And last but not least, by process of elimination, I'm sure you guys have figured out that logos is an appeal to logic or reason. So again, that word logos, excuse me, logos kind of looks like logic there. So logic, logos, those go together. All right, so there you go. So in order, what you guys should have is 5, and then number 1, then 6, 7, 2, 3, 4, and finally 8. So that is the order that you should have. I'll leave that on for just a second so you guys can see it. You can always pause as well if you want to take a look at that in more detail. But that is the end of the first section of your exam, in the section that covers rhetorical devices and letter from Birmingham jail. So there you go, you guys.